molecularly what happens, I think Carole's going to tell us about the sickness, and this is going to directly relate to what I've said.
So radiation sickness. Just some, full disclosure issues. I'm a board-certified pediatrician. I've never actually, fortunately, been involved in an emergency room situation where anyone's been exposed to radiation. You have to think that's actually a good thing and something that shouldn't shock you, because the only time that we face issues like this is when we have like horrifying events like a nuclear plant issue where there's been an accident, or people are being actually trained by Homeland Security in big urban areas for things like anticipated dirty bomb explosions and things. So there's a whole lot that we think we're going to do if people are exposed, and in Japan they're doing it, but you never really know what's going to happen in your situation until it happens for you. About 2 weeks ago, Newsweek put out their weekly issue because of everything that was happening in Japan. And one of the things they do is they play the game of, okay, so we have nuclear power plants in the United States of America. Let's talk to the nuclear regulatory agencies and let's see which the bad ones are, okay? So they put the top 10 bad reactor sites. Bad meaning the ones most likely to have a problem in the next several years. Number 6 on the list, Salem, New Jersey. The top 10 places that they're expecting catastrophe. While I was still in practice, there was some incident that occurred at Salem because we were all notified, listen, there's a potential problem. Make sure that all of the kids, because I do peds, and who's going to be affected by radiation? People whose cells are growing and changing the most rapidly. So your little kid, you're growing and changing. When you come out of the chute, you're 20 inches long and you weigh about 7 pounds, and you change from that into what you are now over a relatively short time period. So there's an enormous amount of growth that's going on, and the potential for your DNA to be damaged as a child is so much greater than the potential for an adult, within certain limits. Of course, getting 6 rays of radiation is going to kill everybody, but that's what you're looking for. So when you look at past disasters, people that died from got cancer, for example, from Chernobyl, a lot of them were kids because they never got the iodine product. So we were warned about that within my lifetime of being in practice. So this is just some of the things that we worry about potentially when people are exposed to radiation. First of all, how much damage occurs to you? This makes sense, I think, intuitively, is what dose did you get? How big was the dose that you were exposed to? Like Brendan said, you've probably all had some sort of x-ray or CAT scan, or if you've been to the dentist, you've had an x-ray of your teeth, right? You've had the Panorex or something like that. So you're exposed to radiation routinely. Just walking outside, you're exposed to radiation. If you've been in an airport, you've been exposed to radiation. So you get exposed to these things. It's the dose that you have. Little tiny doses spread out over long periods don't seem to have as much impact as big gigantic doses that you get bombarded with all at once. Mostly the things that we saw, I think, from the information we got, and I have my information from so many sources: the National Institute of Health, the CDC, the Institute of Medicine, the Mayo Clinic, WebMD. I mean, just a whole group of sources. Really, even with the Chernobyl catastrophe, there were not many rapid fatalities. It was less than 30. It was what you saw happen to people over time, 15 to 20 years later. So one of the things that physicians look at is what's your absorbed dose of radiation. You'll see a lot of different units. You'll see it in millisieverts. You'll see it in Gray's units. You'll see also, I think, what it's Roentgens, right? And they all have different quantities associated with them. And I did this because as I was reading the information about Japan, I kept reading about millisieverts, but all my medical information was coming in as Gray units. How many Gray units do you absorb? So I wanted you to see that 1 Gray unit was 1,000 millisieverts. So that was information for me. If you get exposed to 1 Gray unit's worth of radiation, that will cause you to have medical symptoms. Okay, 1 Gray unit. So it won't necessarily kill you, but you will get symptoms. If you get 6 Gray units,